Coming up on today's edition of the Last Lap podcast, we've got a huge announcement from Josh Kerr, and one of the fastest 10Ks in the country took place over the weekend, and we're going to be here to break it all down for you. Let's go. All right, so if you missed it or if you were under a rock over the weekend, Josh Kerr had quite the big announcement to set forth. He calls it Project 222, and if you haven't heard, it's 222 seconds, and you may be wondering what he's trying to run 222 seconds in. Great question. That would be the world record mile. He plans to attempt it in London on July 18th, I believe, is the date of the London Diamond League. And he's attempting to beat the current world record, which is held by El Garouge, set all the way back in 1999. The current world record is 343.13. And so he's basically going to have to go sub 143 to beat it. And basically what I want to do today is break down a little bit for you if this is actually possible. If this is something that is in Josh Kerr's wheelhouse, and will he do it ultimately? I'll give you my prediction in just a few moments. But to give you some context, all right, Josh Kerr is coming off a World Championship gold medal in the 1500 just from indoors, and he has, as we have said on this podcast before, he is consistently one of the top guys in the 1500. I've said it on this podcast before that I think he would have won the 1500 in the Olympics had he had not been pushed out by Jakob Ingebrigtsen in 2024. Instead, he gets pushed out, and Cole Hawker comes to the inside and takes the win from him. I think a key thing to look at here, I've got Josh Kerr's personal best pulled up. All right, so the main one obviously will be the mile. He ran 345.34 in the 25th of May back in 2024. And if any of you guys will remember, that is actually an awesome race to go back and watch. It was, kind of when the whole Cole Josh Kerr and Jakob Ingebrigtsen rivalry was kind of bubbling up. And they had that post right before where World Athletics or the Diamond League posted like the big three, right? And it was Yared Nuguse, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and Josh Kerr. And it was all this buildup and all this hype, and Josh Kerr ends up taking the win and outkicking Jakob in that race. So that happened May 25th, 2024. So almost over 2 years ago now. And a couple other important personal bests to look at here. So his current 800-meter personal best comes from May 3rd of last year. I believe this was during Grand Slam. And he ran 145.01. So 145.01 is the 800, and the 3K is 730.18. His 2 mile is 8 flat. His 5K is surprisingly slow for him at 13:23. And so really I think the one that's important to look at here is that 800, and is he quick enough to take a couple seconds off? You need to take about 3 seconds off his mile personal best. The other one that I think is really interesting is the 1500, an event he obviously competes in much more frequently. His personal best actually comes from that Olympic Games race. He ran 327.79. So with the mile and the 1500 being so close together, kind of conventional wisdom will tell you add, for a caliber of his athlete, probably 15 to 16 seconds for the extra 109 meters that he will have to run there. And that would put him right around the world record, actually. If you do the math, 15 seconds would be 342, 16 seconds would be 343. So basically, he has to be in maybe slightly better than the best shape of his life to go and do this. And which really brings me to my second point, is that I don't really know if it's that far-fetched. And I think this is attainable. It's certainly in his wheelhouse, but will he do it? Will he do it on the day? I think there's a reason. I think there's been athletes where this record has been attainable for them, but it's just so hard to do on the day. So I'll break it down into a couple things that I think need to go right for Josh Kerr. And one of those is obviously being, I think he has to get his speed up just a little bit. Kerr has elite closing level speed, but does he have, 342 speed? Does he have that level of speed endurance that no one else has ever had? And obviously, I think he has better fitness than his 5K PR of 13:23. I think he's a much better, aerobically fit athlete than that. And maybe he in the lead up to this, maybe he tries something a little bit longer, even though he ran a lot of 3Ks indoors. Um, I do think, the race setup needs to be perfect for him. It'll be, the middle of summer in London. So hopefully, the weather's not too hot. Hopefully it's not too windy or anything like that. And obviously, I think the London track is very fast and, capable of producing that level of performance. But I think who he chooses as his pacer for that day will also be a really big deal. Who's going to pace? How long are they going to pace for? How is this all going to work out? And one other thing that I think he needs to be successful in doing this is I think he needs the competition. I would love nothing more for this summer in track and field that if Yard goes and Cole also goes and races in that mile, Cole Hawker that is, and Yard Nagoose. I would love to see the best runners in the world say, "Oh, Josh, you're going for the world record there? Man, it'd be a real shame if I, Cole Hawker, got the world record that day instead of you. It's really nice that you come out and say all this, but you can run 3:42. What if I just beat you?" I would love for this to kind of be like this grand moment with no world championships or Olympics to look forward to on the calendar this year. This could really be one of those signature moments that we look forward to in the outdoor season. I brought up this race a little earlier, but the Prefontaine Mile Classic a couple years ago in the lead up to the Olympics was really one of those shining moments for a lot of track fans of like they're all here and they're all ready to go. And I would love for this to kind of be a moment that all of these elite 1500-meter runners go and peak for. And I would love just to see a field like, the world class Olympic final assembled. Something to that magnitude would be phenomenal. It's a bummer that Jakob Ingebrigtsen is probably not going to be there. Hey, maybe he could pace. Just kidding. He would never do that in a million years, I don't think, for Josh. But it would just be so awesome if some of these elite guys could pull up, and really I think that's what would push it over the edge is if it's not just a time trial for him and this second place runner runs 3:48 and he's hopefully 7 or 8 seconds ahead of that person, and it'll ultimately come down to how much he has in that last lap because I have no doubts he can get through 1200 on pace, especially with some of the events that he has run and the times that he has run. If I were to put a percentage on if Josh Kerr is going to do it, will he run 222 seconds for a mile? Will he Project 222 be a success? I would lean 46% yes. You may be wondering, why 46%? I think it's almost a toss-up. I don't know. I would lean quite the little bit the other way. I really do think he could run 3:43, but to actually get over that bump and break the world record will be quite the feat. Obviously, I think it's one of the best records in track and field. I think Josh Kerr said it himself that it is the hardest record in track and field to get, which is a little bit of a hot statement when that marathon record is out there and Bolt's 100-meter hasn't been touched. But I think he's on the right track. And if he were to do this, he he would be in the GOAT conversation for sure when it comes to middle distance running, based off of everything he's done, everybody he's beaten, everything he's had to go through, and even some of these silver medals that he's won have been just super impressive. So I am rooting for Josh Kerr. I think it'd be great for the sport if he did it. I think it'd be amazing for the sport if everyone else in that elite 1500-meter spear kind of pulled up and made this a competitive race and really just pushed each other. And hey, maybe we could see multiple people go and dip under and do that. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn the page a little bit here to the 10 which took place over the weekend. The Sound Running Invitational, the 10. This is always one of my more favorite in what's the word I'm looking for? In country, just like US kind of local is not the right word, but you kind of get what I'm saying with that meets. No, we here at the Last Lap podcast are a big supporter of the 10K. A lot of people are saying, "Man, you got to get the 10K out of here. It's not a track and field event. It belongs on the roads and all this stuff." No, no, no. I do not accept that. I think the 10K is a track event, and if you really love track and field, you love the 10K. That's probably a hot take, but I really love watching this. I enjoyed every second of it, every lap of it, all 26 laps of it, uh, and I thought it was great racing. On the women's side, you saw the another amazing performance from Shelby Houlihan, who I found out through watching this is like unattached, I guess, isn't really signed with the brand, which is kind of interesting. She ran 30.50, absolutely destroyed everyone else in the field. Second place was Jess McLean, a Brooks athlete who ran 31.15. And then you had Allie, and I'm sorry, Allie, I might butcher your last name here, Butchalaski from Brooks Beast Track Club, run 31.29. And fourth place, you had Lisa McCurl from Germany in 31.32. I don't know if I really have much to say on this race outside of just Shelby Houlihan absolutely dominated this race and this event. I really hope she's still clean. I know there's a lot of comments out there that are like, "Hey, like Shelby's just living in your guys' head." Like, it's when an athlete is off for 4 years due to substance, due to steroids or whatever it may be. And when they come back and they don't skip a beat, it's kind of hard to not for your mind not to immediately go there. Because if they were on drugs before, I know there's a ton of talk about contaminated meats and all this stuff. We can get into that. Moral of the story is that she was suspended for banned substances, and she's coming back and she's better than ever. So I really hope she's clean, and if so, amazing job, great for her. But she was able to take the win on the women's side, and then flipping over to the men's side, where basically it was a two-man race, especially in the back half. You had Mohamed Abdilaahi. I'm also probably butchering that. I've heard it said 1,000 times. I don't know. I I just don't know. But he ran 26:56.58 for the win. Kai Robinson also broke 27, running 26:57.07. And you had Mike Foppin from Nike in third, run 27:20. And Woody Kincaid from Nike Swoosh TC, run 27:20 as well. Rounding out the top five, you had one of the favorites coming into the race, Ahmed Muhammad from the Hoka NAZ Elite Track Club. So, a couple takeaways from this is one, they didn't have quite the star power as they've had in past years of this races, which is a little disappointing just based off of the fact there's no world championships. You think maybe people would be more inclined to come and do a race like this, but that was not the case. But I thought it was still a very entertaining race between Kai Robinson and Muhammad. They basically switched off. It was like every 800-ish, every 1200-ish, and when it was just kind of the two of them, and they essentially helped each other reach their own national records, and they helped each other break 27. I actually love this. I think this is what the 10K is all about, is, working together for the first 8 or 9K just to get each other there, and then you kind of duke it out, which there's so much more tactics involved in different races, right? Like you would never see that in any other race. But in the 10K, it's just so cool because there's so many laps to kind of do and play with. It's essentially the marathon of the track world, which is awesome. And this really did not disappoint. They both came away with national records. And I really wish, there'd been a few more guys to go with them. But I think it's a great sign for Kai Robinson in particular. I think I might be wrong on this, but I think they said on the broadcast as well that this is his first 10K race since he won the national championships a couple years ago in the NCAA when he was running for Stanford back in Austin, Texas. If that's the case, then I think he needs to run some more 10Ks. I mean, he's clearly the best Australian in the 10K, so it's kind of baffling he has not run any world championships or Olympic 10Ks, but this might be a future for him. and he really kind of replaces, I think, Joe Klecker in the on Boulder group as kind of that strong 10K athlete that kind of leads the charge on the distance track and field side for them. Joe Klecker obviously has moved up to the half marathon and marathon, which might add has been a somewhat lackluster move up for him. I think he maybe did a little too soon. He was doing so well on the track and wanted to jump to the marathon and has struggled just a little bit from that. But I think another kind of important note here is that Woody Kincaid actually ran all right, 27:20 for him. He obviously broke 27 here a few years ago, but maybe he can find some old form of himself. And then just from there, I think there was a couple of ex-collegiates, excuse me, that I thought were just a little disappointing. You had David Mularkey in ninth place, former Florida State runner, run 27:26. You had Aaron Beanfield run 28:11. I know he's kind of stepped out into the roads a little bit more, but you'd still expect a little more from him. And then the last two athletes in this race, you had Bob Liking, the former Wisconsin athlete who now runs for Hoka, barely break 29, run 28:58, and Will Smith run 29:02 in 24th place. And so I don't know, I think a lot of the criticism that comes from the 10 this year is because a lot of those guys that have much better PRs were unable to perform and get the job done in this race. Like, it would have been, I think, way more competitive if you had some of those ex-collegiates, dare I say, beat their collegiate PRs here versus just kind of, having some lackluster days. But, with that being said, it's still March and it's still really early, and a lot of these guys just trying to find their footing in the professional realm. But overall, as I said, kind of leading into this, I love the 10K. I know that's kind of a controversial opinion, a hot take per se, but I think the 10K is awesome, and you just kind of need a longer attention span to enjoy it, I guess. If maybe you just need more time in your life, just 30 minutes to really sit down and enjoy a really solid 10K race. Um, but looking forward, there's a lot of exciting outdoor meets happening. I believe the Stanford Invitational takes place this week for colleges, and some professionals will hop into that as well. So you best believe you will cover that coming up, and there should be a lot more fast 10Ks. We'll kind of really start to see the collegiates like lists start to form of like who might make regionals, who needs to improve their times here or there. And so we're going to bring you, breakdowns with TFers and all that stuff. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Last Lap podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We are at 40 subscribers right now, but we are definitely still trying to grow the show, gain more of an audience. It's still a super new podcast. So if you made it this far, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend that you think would really just enjoy, this breakdown of track and field and of Josh Curl's world record. And if he wants to know more about it and where it is and what's going on, then go ahead and share that with them. But thank you for tuning in, and this is and always will be the Last Lap podcast. See ya.